Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is dedicated in loving memory of Mrs. Lily Safra Aleh Shalom, Lilu Nishmat Leah Bat Chana. Her philanthropy has reached so many throughout the entire world. As well, dedicated in loving memory of Nishmat Sarah Victoria Bat Rafael, sponsored by her granddaughter Shiva Barzilai. Month of Cobra is dedicated in honor of a shell side donated by her children, and as well by David E. Ash in honor of you and your substantial capacity to do good today and every day. My friends, we read about a line that really made an impact on me over the last couple of days. The line in the pasuk goes as follows: Vayomer bo beruch Amonai. He said to Eliezer, bo beruch Amonai, come, O you blessed to God, bo beruch Amonai. Lama ta'amod bachutz. Why are you standing outside? Va'anochi piniti et habayit. Va'anochi piniti habayit. And I emptied the house, umakom legmalim, and place for the camels. So on the surface, it sounds like Lavan is very similar to his righteous sister. I have a place for you to stay, and not only for you, but also makom legmalim. Sounds incredible, right? Lavan is fantastic. However, Rashi explains that maybe something else is going on here, a little bit deeper than what seems at surface level. The pasuk says, "Va'anochi piniti habayit," I emptied the house. What was he really communicating? Why would Eliezer be standing outside? And why would the claim that "Anochi piniti habayit," I emptied the house, why would that matter to Eliezer? The Chachamim explain, Rashi says, what does it mean, piniti habayit? I emptied the house. He says, me'avodah zara, from the idols. You see, Lavan and all of Haran at the time were idol worshippers. He sees Eliezer standing outside. He says, Beruch Amonai, the person who's blessed to God. Why are you standing outside? You obviously don't feel comfortable inside over here. Why? It must be because there's something in here making you uncomfortable. It must be my avodah zara. Let me throw my avodah zara out. I'll get rid of it, and you come in umakom legmalim, and as well a place for the camels. Now, Rabotai, what was Lavan's intention in bringing Eliezer into the house? So we know already. Our Chachamim explained that when Eliezer came to the house of Rivka, he came laden with all of the good of his master's house. Where was all these riches? The riches were on the camels, right? It says the camels are carrying all these, the gold, the silver, all this stuff. Lavan already saw the jewelry that's sitting on his sister's wrist, in her nose ring, whatever, earring, whatever he gave her. He saw all that he had given her, and now Lavan says, Fadal, welcome into the house. Not only do I have place for you, I have place for your camels. Camels holding all the flus, all the money. Eliezer, Lavan feels Eliezer is a fool and his money are soon parted. I have a way of being able to turn this into a fantastic monetary opportunity for me and my family. So let me get him in the house. So what does he do? He sees or thinks, what's causing Eliezer not to come in? It must be my idols. Anochi piniti habayit. The Kutzker Rabbi, who was very, very sharp, his ideas are always, they cut right to the core. He said, look at this man Lavan, that for a little gold and silver, he was willing to throw his own God in the garbage. Come inside. Va'anochi piniti habayit. I emptied the house of my idols. These are the gods he worships, the gods he has at home. Not only that, by the way, listen to the words he uses. Bo beruch Amonai. Not only did I throw out my gods, don't worry, I'm already converting to your religion. I'm blessing you in the name of Hashem. My friends, you listen to the words of the Kutzker, like his students did when he first taught this idea, and they all were like, look at this guy Lavan. But then the Kutzker continued, as was his trademark way. in revealing emet in our lives. And he said, and you think you're any different? How many times do you throw your God out the window for a little gold and silver? If you didn't come to shul because you had a meeting at work, what'd you do? You threw your God out for gold and silver. You traded. When you decided you're not going to buy something because kosher is more expensive, tuition's too expensive, you threw out your God for gold and silver. When you bent the rules a little, you sketched the guy, you told him it was worth this, it wasn't worth that. You said to the guy in the deal, yeah, don't worry, you have this, you have that. You're not thinking, you just want to close the deal. But Lavan was the same way. He just wanted to close the deal. What did he do? He threw his God to the curb, he kicked him to the curb for little gold and silver. You have a competitor. Someone else is bidding on the deal. You go to the guy and you say, you want to do business with him? You know what he did the last time? You start saying Lashon Hara about the guy. You're kicking your God to the curb for a little gold and silver. My friends, it's so easy to laugh at Lavan and not to realize that we're guilty of the same thing. This guy Lavan, what made him such a shyster, such a trickster? What made him be the quintessential example of a charlatan in the Torah's Mishalim? You know what made Lavan so insidious? If the guy's name was Shakran, I think that would be okay. The guy comes to you, he's like, hi, how you doing? My name is Shakran Finkelstein. Shakran means a liar. But Lavan's name, what was his name? Lavan, what does Lavan mean? White, pure. It described the essence of the sting operation that Lavan always tried to employ. He always tried to present himself as Lavan. Clean, white. I see a guy coming, I'm going to run to him and tell him, fud out to the house. You know what Lavan could have said? I have a great place for you and your camels. And it can be all yours for the small price of $5 million for one night. Guy's rich. He could afford it. He's happily paid to be able to put up his camels. He needs to be here. The whole reason why he's made this journey is to be in town. He's got no place to stay. Be upfront. Tell the guy, you want Rivka? No problem. I'm going to speak to my father for you on your behalf. And I'm going to charge you $1 million to convince my father that he should let his daughter go out with your master, with Yitzchak. Be upfront. Tell the person the way it is. You're convincing a person, my friends, to do a business deal. But if the business deal goes through, it's beneficial for you. You're making this intro and you're going to make money on the intro. Okay? You're doing the intro, you're going to make money on the intro. You're telling the guy, you know, I really think you should do it. It's a good deal. This guy's a good guy. You're selling up the guy. Why are you doing it? Your own benefit. But you haven't told him anything. You haven't mentioned it. You know what that's called? Ya'atznu etzot ra'ot. We gave bad advice. The traditional understanding of Ya'atznu etzot ra'ot is when you gave someone advice based on the fact that it was for your benefit and not his. Be honest. Tell the guy, look, I'm happy. I'll make the intro. I just charge you 1%. It has to be worth my time. You know, I don't care where I get it from. I don't mind. I'll introduce you to someone, but everything's on the table. Everything's clean. Wouldn't that be the better way to do it for a person, to have that level of honesty, of transparency, to maintain their integrity? And think to yourself, is that what your integrity is worth? 1%? Rabotai, we look at Lavan, and Lavan can teach us a lot of lessons. My Rabbi Berkowitz, used to say all the time, he said, it's funny. We learn more about Lavan in the Torah than Yitzchak. There's more Pesukim talking about Lavan and then his later iteration, Bil'am. There's more press time than Yitzchak. Why? And my rabbi said, because we have more to learn from Lavan than Yitzchak. We all were like, what? He said, we have more good to learn. But Yitzchak was so perfect, he's called in the language of Chazal an olat temimah, a pure korban. He was so pure, his givurah, his strength was so extraordinary, his moral compass was so powerful, that much of the way he led his life for us would be almost impossible. It would be unreachable. But from a guy like Lavan, he's a walking Musar Sefer. You look at the guy, you learn everything not to do. My friends, what a powerful idea. Not to misrepresent yourself. I think that there's two parts to this. One part is when a person is saying something which is dishonest. That's its own parasha. But there's a whole other element here that we're taught the key. You know what the key is? You know what the underlining thing that makes a person into a crook is? Lavan. Misrepresenting yourself. Now, my friends, misrepresenting yourself does not need to start with stealing. It doesn't need to start with stealing. It needs to start, my friends, it needs to start all the time by the person saying, I did this. You ever hear people say that? Oh yeah, this Bikur Cholim, yeah, I was instrumental in making Sephara Bikur. Have you heard people say that? I was instrumental. I set up this organization. That was me. I did it. From right in the beginning, I was there from the first day one. This synagogue would not be here. Rabbi Farhi would not have come to New York without me. I remember hearing that from a lot of different people. It's true about some of them, by the way. It's not true about others of them. Right? People love to take credit. If Bar Minan, there comes a time where they don't like me, all of a sudden everyone will fade into the shadows, and then they're not talking about how they were involved. Right? Misrepresenting yourself. When a person starts walking down that path, then you lose your sensitivity for emet. Our tzaddikim, our great leaders, they were incredibly careful with sharing emet, and only emet. I want to share with you an unbelievable story. In Bnei Brak, many years ago, there was a woman who was crossing the street in one of the thoroughfares in Bnei Brak. She stepped out in between two cars. She was run over by a car. The car hit this old woman. It was her fault. Everybody saw it was her fault. She stepped out from the middle of the thing during a green light, whatever. Unfortunately, she passed away from her injuries. Anyway, everyone sees there's a woman who passed the middle of the street. At the time, there were many fights that they had, the religious Jewish community had at the time with the government about how they would treat the bodies of people that passed away. You find someone in the middle of the night with 3 knives in his chest. You want to figure out who did it. That's, not that we hold that or you're supposed to do that, but you could understand that there will be a sikhsukh between the police and the people as to whether or not that you should do an autopsy. Judaism never believes that we do an autopsy unless there's a specific reason for pikuach nefesh that we have to do it, right? But at the time, they just did autopsies willy-nilly, cut the body open. Sometimes they took body parts. They didn't treat the body parts with the proper respect. I mean, it was wild. So what happened? This happens in the middle of a very religious city. There was no reason to do an autopsy. All the witnesses saw that she stepped out in the middle of traffic, and the guy hit her wasn't his fault, right? So there's no reason. So all of a sudden, people start coming out. They said, go call the rabbi. The rabbi said, well, is there, of course there's no reason here to do it. We should do everything we can to make sure that the body gets a proper burial without being desecrated. Judaism places an incredible premium on kavod hametim, on the honor of the dead. Many times we'll get phone calls about people that are going to be cremated, and we do everything we can in the community to try and make sure they get burial kavod Yisrael. I once heard there was a fellow who spent thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars on bringing people to Kivurat Yisrael. And they asked him, why was this so important to you? That they should be, he says, because my family went through the Holocaust, the Nazis burned them in their ovens. He says, I can't bear the thought that we're doing that now willingly to our family members. I will pay anything, I will give anything to help someone get to Kivurat Yisrael. Baruch Hashem, through people like that, we've been able to help people that maybe don't know the difference. They don't know why it's important. Okay? Anyway, so we have a very big thing about Kavod Metim. Everyone goes, by the way, at a funeral, the family members, they go and they ask Mechila, did we ever do anything to you? If we ever did that upset you, please forgive us. You know who else asks Mechila in our community? Not in every community, but many communities. The Chevra Kadisha will ask forgiveness from the Niftar in case there was a moment, a tiny lapse in the Kavod of the Met. We are very careful with Kavod Met. So they go to the rabbi. The rabbi says, no, we should try and give a burial Yisrael. What happens? 5 people are there, 10 people there, people start talking. The police come, the police say they want to take the body away. But they say, what's the reason? There's no reason for it, even according to your own opinion. You're only doing this to ascertain the cause of death. Everybody here saw what the cause of death is. You don't need to do this. The police, they're saying, no. People start hearing the police says that. All of a sudden, next thing you know, there's 1,000 people there, 1,500 people, 2,000 people, yeshiva students, they're saying Tehillim, everyone's going to that praying. The police already see that this is not a very comfortable situation. You know, they're going to have to fight with a crowd that wants to just give this woman a Jewish burial. So you know what? They turn their eyes the other way and they walk away. Rav Chaim Kanievsky at the time, they wanted to find out, he was speaking to his mother, he said, what's going on that this woman managed to get, she doesn't look like she's very religious. She managed to have an impromptu funeral with thousands of people in attendance and buried, properly according to halakha. What zechut did she have? Anyway, they asked around, the mother asked around, they spoke to someone about it. My friends, you must hear the end of this. It turns out, Rav Chaim replied that when they made the birurim and they found out who she was, it turned out that Rav Chaim Kanievsky's mother, ki imo hikira et hanifteret, she remembered this person who passed away, this elderly woman. She remembers her that she was born in the city of Kosovo, okay? And she tried to understand why is it that she had this funeral, but she didn't keep anything. She didn't even fast on Yom Kippur. She wasn't religious at all. So they tried to figure it out, and they asked around about this woman, what her past was. Did she have any zechut? Did she do any mitzvah that would have caused that she should have the merit of such an honorable levaya? And my friends, unbelievable. It turns out that someone did recognize her. And someone did have an understanding and an explanation for why this woman merited such a thing. You got it? What'd you say? No. I thought you guessed. They said this woman, even though she weren't religious at all, but back when she was very much younger, in the ghetto, during the time of the war, many people, they were starving them. So you'd have cases where people would wake in the morning, you wake up and you see a body in the street. And she was very careful back in Kosovo, in the ghetto, that whenever she would see somebody, a body that was not protected on the street, she would drag it herself and bring it to the kivurah and bury the body for kavod the metim. So Borei Olam held on to this and waited and waited and waited and waited. And when it came her time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made sure that she was taken care of, that she was buried. B'fnei kol am ve'edah. My friends, I was reading this and it really struck this exact chord in my mind. You know, many times, what is the chief reason why people feel the need to misrepresent themselves? To say I did this, to say I did that, to speak in business, to misrepresent the deal, to misrepresent the product. What's the reason? Why are people doing that? Part of the reason is because they feel that unless they say those things, people won't respect them. Unless they say those things, people won't buy the thing. In a shidduch, how many times do I find out from a guy or a girl down the road? Well, when I first started dating her, the guy told me that he was this. The girl told me she keeps Shabbat. The guy told me he studies every day. The guy told me he prays. The guy told me he's this. The girl told me that. The guy told me he has this job. Girl told me, What's the reason people feel that they need to misrepresent themselves? The answer is, my friends, really one thing and one thing only. It's that we don't trust that Borei Olam could take care of us without our help. I need to sweeten the deal for God to find me a shidduch. I need to misrepresent the deal in order for the guy to kind of want to buy in. My friends, you don't know why the guy wants the deal. You don't know why the person's interested in you. You don't know anything. But you're already making this decision. And in many ways, like the Kutzka said, for the sake of something small, you're throwing God to the curb. You're making God irrelevant. You're presenting him as powerless if he needs your help. I'll add one last piece. Imagine for a second, these movers come to your house. 4 guys, each guy, he's built like 16, Hulk Hogan's. Muscles on his muscles. They're lifting it up. I don't understand. These guys came, they moved, what's it called? They moved a stove out of my house. 60-inch stove weighs 800 pounds. I said, what kind of machine you going to bring? With the hydraulics, how you going to lift it? They're like, no. These guys were big guys from Russia or Ukraine. I don't know where they were from. Some Eastern European country. No, we can't. We lift. It's good. I was like, what do you mean you lift? It's 800 pounds. I'm trying to move it. I can't even move it 1 inch. No. Anyway, they came. I couldn't believe it. They're lifting. Now, don't worry. They sweated all over my house. It was great. We had a wonderful aroma that lasted for a couple of hours in the house. It's fantastic. UD toilet, you know what I mean? Okay? It was a wonderful pungent smell in the home of BO. But my friends, they managed, they lifted it, they took it out. Could you imagine for 1 second, this guy, all these guys, massive guys, every guy bigger than the next, lifting the stove, 4 guys walking. Could you imagine, just 1 second, guys. Imagine I told my daughter, 6 years old, Rivka! Yes? Rivka, come here. She's watching Fancy Nancy. I don't know what she's doing. In the other room. Rivka, come here. She's this big, 6 foot. 6 years old. Could you help the movers? Just put your hand underneath could you do that? My friends, asking my 6-year-old daughter to help these burly Russian Ukrainians, Lithuanians, I don't even know, right? Makes more sense than you trying to help out God. Now, because the difference between the Russian and my daughter is a smaller difference than the difference between you and God. So when it's something which is appropriate, legal, kosher, that's called ishtadlut. You got to try your best because God's expecting you to give it your all. But when it's something which is dishonest, you think that's what God needs from you? You think God needs your help at all? That, my friends, is the ultimate moment of Lavan, where you are misrepresenting the strength of God and you are misrepresenting the strength of self. May Hashem bless us to always see 100% clearly and be paragons of Emet. Baruch Adonai Le'olam.